Hi, Joan. Welcome to the MACE Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and I am so happy to be here. This is exciting. I know we've been waiting for this moment for a long time. So
Yes,
thank you.
I'm so excited because what a great way to kick off our 2025 with these amazing episodes that I am making with you, Joan. So I'm very happy to have you here. And as I have already shared with the audience, you are a leader in the admin profession because you are delivering a lot of trainings and a lot of insights about how an admin professional can be a strategic business partner when working with executives and leaders. So I wanted to start our interaction focusing on the business partnership because this is a very well-known topic. And from your perspective, how can an admin professional be a strategic business partner when working with an executive? And how this paradigm, the business partnership, can be relevant for our workplace, for every individual that is working in an industry when working with leaders and executives and teams. What do you think?
Yes, that's wonderful. I think I want to start with the thinking part of it before I go into the how-to, right?
Yeah,
So, because it really does start in your mind, how you think about it. So, for an assistant, if they only view themselves as that support person and they do what they're told and they're a task doer, they're waiting for that direction, they're going to that's going to play out differently. They're going to, I would say, do a lot more of the foundational work and maybe not be thinking at that strategic level of thinking.
yeah,
They're going to interact differently with their executive. Maybe instead of taking that lead with their executive, they're going to sit back again and wait, right? Like, I don't have that right or authority to do that or to be assertive with my executive. And so one, it starts with their thinking, but if that, as an assistant, if I see myself as a strategic partner, I'm going to act differently. I'm going to talk differently. I'm going to be a leader in the relationship, a partner in the relationship. And I know
yeah.
this from my personal experience. So I don't know if I had shared this with you, but I learned how to be a strategic partner when I was 26 years old. So I was very fortunate that I learned at an early age in my career. So I went into the workplace at 19, went into being a secretary, loved it. I worked for, executives and some managers, but it wasn't until I was 26 and I was promoted to work for a vice president of marketing and planning at a huge corporation. His name was John. I will never, ever forget John because he is the one who taught me to be a partner. He never viewed me as, he was here, he was higher than me, and I was below him. He always saw me as his right hand person. And therefore, for example, John and I would meet almost every morning unless he did have a meeting. And of course, as a VP, he was very active, but I was always first.
Yeah.
And we would sit in his office and we would have our morning huddles. And this everyone knew you don't interrupt Joan and John unless the building's on fire. So right away, he taught me the respect of that partnership and the value I had. And really, he brought me into the business. He would teach me the business. It wasn't just about, delegating a bunch of tasks. And so at a young age, I embraced that mindset. I saw myself as a partner. And so the rest of my career, until I retired from the administrative profession in 1990, I saw myself as a partner. And when I went into different workplaces, because we moved my husband's career, if that executive did not see me that way, I left. I was not I was not going to operate any other way because I saw it was such a better way, a more effective way that I could really make a difference and that I could take so much off my executive's
Yeah.
plate, allowing them to focus on what they really need to do.
Yeah.
So as the assistant, it really starts with what is your perception of
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
of your role? Do you really see yourself? You are in business together with your management team.
Yeah.
And therefore, you take the initiative. You are, be proactive. Don't be afraid to make suggestions. If you see a better way, a better process, bring that to their attention so that they see you contribute a lot more maybe than what they think you contribute. Now the executive is going to start to treat you differently.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing place to be. And, on the other hand, it's the same way for the executives. I have coached over 300 executives on how to work with their assistant to see them as a strategic
As a partner.
partner,
Yeah.
not, to see them that way, but also how do they treat them? How do they bring them into their world? And I will tell you, every one of those executives said that, their productivity increased at least by 25%, if not more, when they shifted their thinking and they did the things I taught them.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for this amazing overview. From this takeaway, I would say that partnering is really key in order to succeed. And I have understood from you that the partnership needs to be mutual. So needs to get together, and the assistant and the executive, they need to get together in order to not just work together, but they need to think together. They need to partner together. There is really when the success is gonna come. So thanks a lot for sharing such a kind of experience from your side, but also such a kind of insight and the perception, as you mentioned, that is really important to get. Now, we have explored a little bit about the business partnership and what is all about. One topic that really matters for the business partnership is the communication, of course. As you know, I love communication, and that's why I own my podcast, the MACE Podcast. And of course, you are a communication expert. And during your trainings, you shared a lot of things about communication. And I remember one of your training where you spoke about 4 different types of communication styles. So what is this all about? And how can people keep communication on top shape, Joan?
Wow, I love this topic. I love it. I love it. I have been speaking on communication styles since 1990. So we're already
Yeah.
in 2025, right? And I will tell you that when I learned about this myself, I learned this from other coaches and where I was living, and it made such a difference once I really understood the 4 different styles, the characteristics of those styles, which I will share the 4 in a moment.
Yeah.
The characteristics of the style, when to leverage your style, when to not let, to pull back, when to compliment someone else's. It changed so much in my world. So personally, it helped me and actually my husband. We have been married for a long time. But, sometimes when it came to communication, it would be a little frustrating because I'm a big picture communicator and I'm an idea person and a visionary and I get excited and I can deal with the abstracts. He was more practical, very
Yeah.
detailed, very methodical. And so I would have a business idea because, of course, he was, we worked very close on that as far as him helping me. I'd have this great idea and he would poke all these holes in it. And then I would get all upset because you're bursting my bubble. But I learned once I figured this out and I realized our styles, while we were similar in one area, our differences was I was the big picture, he was the
Yeah.
detailed, I was future focused, he was present focused.
Yeah.
So we came together. Like I realized, because then I would take what he had to say and I would take a few days to digest what he said or what he was asking me. But I also learned if I wanted to approach him at one of my business ideas, and it's my business, but I wanted his thoughts, I had to provide the detail and I would think of as much as I could. So personally, it changed my life, right? And then in the business world, it made a significant difference. When you understand style, and I want to make a point really clear, people will confuse this with personality style. No, what I'm talking about is different. It has to do with when we communicate, how we deliver information, how we
Yeah.
like to receive information. So I'll quickly tell you, repeat, the four characteristics that we talk
Yeah.
about. But this is just touching the surface. When I'm teaching this, I go into great depth. But so the first style is red, the red style. So that's me. And also the colors, they're just to give you a name, but
Yeah.
it's really the characteristics under that. So reds are quick, they're decisive. They want you to get to the point. When they're communicating, they want it just business. Like as a red, I don't need all the fluff, I don't need all the background, and I don't need to hear every detail of what you did this weekend. Just tell me, yeah, I had a great weekend. Here's, a couple things I did. So reds will get a little frustrated if you are dominant in a red style. Reds will get frustrated if someone just goes on and on and on and on
Yeah.
and goes into a lot of personal stuff. Well, the one thing to understand, if that red is getting frustrated, they're not listening. They might look like they're listening, they're tuning you out, and they're thinking, I wish you would just be done already.
Mm.
So, the main thing with communication, I want to back up 1 second. What do people think are our goals in communicating? I asked this in class. What do you think the goal of communication is? They'll say, oh, well, to share information, to express our ideas, to confirm meetings. Our goal in communication is to have impact, number one. Number one, we have
Mm.
to have impact. And in today's world, that's more important than ever because people are so distracted.
Yeah.
We have to get their attention, right?
Of
So
course.
if I'm just busy rolling along and I'm not paying attention to someone else's style, if they have a preferred style, not everyone does,
Yeah.
then I'm not going to get their attention, right? So red style, like I said. So if you are working with a strong red, be decisive, be quick, be to the point, know what you want to say. Don't be wishy-washy. So if you want them to listen and pay attention and respond to you. Now, if they want more details, they'll ask for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are reds. And interestingly, while these don't have anything to do with careers, but red styles typically are your CEOs, business owners, top level C suite. Think about how they speak. They're quick, get to, we got things to do, right?
Yeah.
Yellow, on the other hand, the next yellow's opposite of red. Yellows are very feely, they're sensitive, um, they're very good at sensing the tone of others within the office. They can pick up on, are you having a bad day? They're going to be more nurturing. Yellows do like to get into a lot. If they're a strong yellow, they will get into lengthy conversation, a lot of personal conversation. So that's the hard part with the yellow. If you're in the workplace, knowing when to stick to business, when to move on, and that you've got to look at the person you're speaking with and picking up on their cues, But yellows are wonderful. That's my executive assistant.
Mm.
That's like a primary color.
Yeah.
And so she's so good with people and client relations, and she takes the time and talks to people. She's very sensitive to me. As soon as I walk in, she could tell them, did I have a rough morning or, something's going on, and she'll be there to kind of nurture, so it's very valuable. So with yellows, when they're communicating, you'll see it. The words they use are going to be different than the words the red's going to be. But
Yeah.
the challenge with yellows, again, is they're not real quick and decisive. So they have to know, again, I need to move on, right?
Yeah.
And then blues are similar with yellow in that they're both informal, casual. So they don't necessarily want a lot of structure. They're more like, yeah, they're kind of, like I said, they're informal, casual. Like maybe if you want to have a conversation with a yellow in business or a blue, you want to go to lunch with them. So I remember I had an executive I worked for. This was later in my career. He was wonderful. And it was at Coppertone, the big suntan lotion place, right? And I was a strong red, and he was real blue, casual, fun loving, but he worked very hard. We were in marketing. But I realized if I wanted to really convince him or talk to him or get serious in a conversation with him, I'd say, why don't we go to lunch, Steve? Let's go to lunch, or let's go down and have a cup of coffee. And we talk about his kids and his flying lessons. And then I'd get into business.
So
So
yeah.
I'd say, okay, we have to talk about these partitions for the secretaries on our floor. We also, when you learn characteristics, you learn how to use this so you can be persuasive with
Yeah.
people. This is important, blues are abstract thinkers. They
Hmm.
don't need every little thing spelled out. So they actually can take bits of information and their brain will connect the dots. So they're really good at that. And we might think of the blues as our creatives, they're really, really good, in that arena. They're good listeners. That was another characteristic. And then green is very precise,
Mm.
methodical, analytical, fact based. They are not quick to make decisions. So if I'm trying to present something, to an executive, and they're a green, strong green, and I want their answer on something, they need time to digest it, to process it. They're
Mm.
not going to be that quick. So understand, you need to give them that time to process or think about something. And that's because they're very analytical, they're very detailed, they're our left brain thinkers. Think about like CPAs, if we were to think of a career, engineers. And we always tease, they don't have the warm, fuzzy people skills. Yeah, the greens really kind of are not in that area, but they're the scientists, the
Yeah.
NASA people, and the engineers. So if you think of that kind of person, right, that style of thinking and communicating is really good. Like my daughter is a human resource director. She has to be very methodical, very precise. She's working with attorneys and legal and issues in the workplace. She can't be warm and fuzzy. I mean, it
Yes.
doesn't mean she isn't nice to people. She's very caring. She's in human resources. But when it comes to communicating and how she needs information, there's got to be details. There's got to have logic to it. So,
Yeah.
the idea then is if you understand these, and so a couple things really quick. One is not everyone has a dominant style of
Mm.
communication. In fact, I've seen thousands of these assessments that we use over the years, and more people their numbers are close because we use an actual tool. And so that's how we know. And we have the numbers and so forth. And so the good news for people who they're very similar, they may be like they've taken some of the blue, they've taken some of the yellow, they've taken some of the green. The good news is it's easy for them to move in and out of those characteristics when they're communicating with others who are dominant.
Yeah.
Their challenges, if they had to communicate in one style for any length of time, they can't. They're
Mm.
going to move into the other. Like I could talk red all day long, you know. Um, and then the other way is if we have dominant styles, is what we have to understand. When do I leverage my style? When does it really work for me in communications?
Yeah.
When do I need it? Doesn't work. So, for example, again, being a red and green is my backup color. So, green and red share a lot as far as being logical and
Yeah.
fact based. So, when I'm working with my employees, and maybe I need to critique one of my employees who is more on the yellow side, which I do have someone like that, I have to think about how I'm going to say it in a way that she will be open to my feedback.
Yeah.
So do you see, I know when I have to pull back so that I can connect And that's where you take this. It's not just putting people in these four quadrants. It's saying,
Yeah.
okay, I know this is where I maybe, prefer and how I communicate, how I need communications.
Yeah.
So that's the trick. We use it to complement someone else's style. So
Yeah.
for example, if you have an executive and the assistant working together, and the executive is a strong red, and then maybe the assistant's the more with the yellow, the more feely intuitive side. If that executive is going to put out a communications, and maybe it's a little bit of a harsh communication, or maybe they have to write a letter to a client and it's not good news, then have that assistant soften it for you
Yeah.
so that it's better received. So we use this knowledge for persuading others. Like if I know you're a strong green, I want to come from that very detailed, methodical, practical side.
Yeah. Yeah.
We use it to complement another style. We use it to influence. So, like I said, this goes so wide. We're touching it, but it's powerful. It is
Yes.
so.
Yes, no, that's why I wanted to capture these insights in our conversation because as you mentioned, the power is to understand and to be aware of your style in order to see where is the intersection with others in order to make sure that the way you communicate can be successful and of course can be tailored and can be tailored to the people that you have around you. So I thank you so much for these amazing insights. I will share with the audience also the link of your blog because I'm sure that you have already shared in your blog articles that speak about these kind of styles. So I will be pulling in the description the link so our audience will be able also to see this in written and to meditate on that very well because this is crucial in order to make sure that our way of working can be successful. And it's all about communication, as we said.
It is like we communicate all day. And the other thing is, if we don't communicate, we're still communicating.
Yes, I
If
love
you're
that.
quiet, right?
I love that. I love that. Speaking about, of course, communication, and that's a huge topic. One of the other thing that that has an impact on our business workplace is the use and the usage of artificial intelligence, AI. So, in your opinion, where we are when speaking about artificial intelligence and how can we use good judgment, common sense when getting artificial intelligence in our workplace in order to make sure that we use it with wisdom. What is your thought? What is your view?
Wow. Even since you and I talked, what did we talk a month ago or maybe 2 months ago, you
Yeah,
and I were talking about this. Oh my God, so much has happened in the past 2 weeks. I mean, what I've been reading in my industry magazines, every day I get industry newsletters from the Human Resource Association and the Trading and Development. So these
yeah,
all have to do with the workplace, right? But the focus is about artificial intelligence, how jobs are going to be eliminated, humans are going to be eliminated from jobs. I mean, I'll get into that. But also last week, in Las Vegas, every year we have the Consumer Electronics Show. It's the biggest, convention. There's over 150,000 from around the world come here, and it's all focused on technology in every domain, from our homes to our entertainment centers to the medical field to all of it, right? And so I was getting little news updates about what was being talked about at this. AI took over, was the whole thing. They
yeah,
just it dominated it. But the key things, I mean, I know it's dominating, but it's like getting to a point where we have to seriously look at it because the AI, the artificial intelligence, what they're saying, it is moving so fast that even the developers of this cannot keep up with it.
yeah,
I mean, it's so smart, it's intelligent, it's feeding off itself.
yeah,
So, it's like, wow, it makes my head spin. That's why I'm trying to read all the time about it, stay up on it. But some of the other things I'm seeing, there was just a report in CNN, which is big, CNN News,
yeah,
media, right, outlet. Just saw it a week ago that at least here in the United States, you know, 40% of the employers are going to be cutting a lot of jobs. And those are going to be postal workers, secretaries, and some of those hands-on basic functions, because if AI can do these things, employers are saying, why am I paying a person? I could use AI. So we're at a point now where I don't know where this is going to head, because I think it's a little scary. There's also something new I just learned about that we talked about in our office as a team yesterday. I don't know if you know about this. They're called AI agents. And they're going to be brought into the workplace, and they will be doing the jobs of people.
Yeah.
So we all have to stop and look at this, because what does this mean? As an individual, you really have to look at, what parts of your job or what things do you do that you can be replaced? I mean, marketing, AI can do everything. It's brilliant. I use chat. That's what I started with when it came out 2 years ago, 2022, right? And I love it. It is like my best friend. But I also know, I've learned how to prompt it, what to do with it, where I still have to use my own creativity. Like, I don't ever want to become so reliant. We don't want to be so reliant on those tools that we're not using our brains, because that's our differentiator. Again, in my human resource magazine, the SHRM is the largest association in the world, over 100,000 members. I think 150,000 members belong to that, and they represent every country. And, their whole magazine the other day was all about the impact of AI in those roles and how it's going to impact employees. So, we've got to wake up now. And so my advice is, one, if you're not using it, you need to start using it in some way. And even if your workplace won't allow you to use it personally, to be familiar with it, to understand how it works. We also talked about in our office, this was a while back with assistants, what did it say? You may not be replaced by AI, but an assistant who knows how to utilize AI may replace you. So the thing is, if an assistant knows, and this is becoming a requirement for employees and not just assistants, when you look at, again, job requests, job ads, now they're looking for people who have a foundation of AI.
Yeah, as a skill set.
So, right? So like I said, if you're not using it, and I know it could be scary, but if we learn to work in tandem is the key. I call it working in tandem, right? It's a great tool. You also, though, have to understand your human element. And they're also just again, we just had a staff meeting, 3-hour kickoff meeting the other day. And I was talking about this from the research I was doing. It's our intangible skills, the soft skills, that is where we're going to have the edge. So the technology is fabulous. I love it. But as a human, you have to know what you bring to the table, and you have to show others you have that human element.
Yeah.
The other thing is, right now, from what I know, it can't predict the future, but as humans, we can predict the future. I can look a year out and say, okay, based on looking at the trends that are going on right now, the business trends, the workplace trends, I can pretty much predict where things are going in the next year. So how am I going to prepare for that? How do I prepare my employees for that? How do I set our company up as a leader in administrative training? I have to see the future and teach people skills that they're going to need a year and 2 years from now. Not just today. We have to build ourselves for our future, every day. And that's called job security as well. So if you're going to be out there and you're going to be looking for a job, you need to make yourself as marketable as you can. So what else did you want? Or there's so much to talk about on this subject.
No, definitely. I think that you touched the most useful things when speaking about artificial intelligence. So the key is not eliminate it, because we need to deal with this technology. keeping up with the technology that is out there in order to make sure that we can understand the perimeter of the technology that we use, and at the same time, where again is the intersection in order to make sure that the technology can help us to be more effective in our work and in our when performing our roles. So I think that we this is a huge topic, of course. We need to deal with that, and the first step is of course to raise this awareness as we are doing here in our podcast, to make sure that the people that will be listening to us understand the power of this tool of artificial intelligence, but at the same time that it can be also something that can be a threat if not well used, if not well managed. So we need
Yeah.
to understand that, how to keep the balance between those. What do you think?
Right. And yes, yes. And the ethical part, I was just thinking about that, you have to be aware, uh, when you start using this tool and it can write everything and do everything and whatever, what are you allowed to use? I mean, if you're going to take that and resell it, yet you didn't think of any of it, that's not really ethical. So, we all have to look into and research the ethics behind it. Now, if
Yeah,
people are working in big companies, like, a lot of our clients, they work in big corporations. Their corporation has the legal team, they're setting the legalities, they're
yes,
teaching
the
employees what
rules.
you can do, what you can't do.
Yeah,
So that's an entirely different, another area, right?
yes,
That we all have to think about and be knowledgeable about, and you still have to check the facts. You still have to, don't just accept what it says. I
yeah,
mean, I still read through everything, does that really make sense? And so forth. But what I do love, like, I think a benefit is, when I'm researching a topic I want to speak on. So in my head, I know, let's say I want to talk about being resilient in the
yeah,
workplace. I know about having to be resilient because I've had to do it over 35 years of owning my business and
yeah,
almost closing the door 6 times. I know personally how to be resilient. But when I'm teaching, I always want to research and see what else is out there. What am I not thinking of, right? So I used to go to Google and I would type it in and I'd have to go to every little, click on
yeah.
everything that
Options that you had.
link,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then go back and then go back. So now I just go into chat and it gives me, dumps it all in one place.
yeah, yeah,
Imagine how much time that saves me. And
yeah,
I can access it, but I still want to maybe fact check it, or maybe it's giving me information that's dated back 4 years ago. Well, that may not matter right now. It's
yeah,
2020.
yeah. Of
So
course.
that's again our brain, our
Yeah.
human element, um, and that right now cannot be replaced. And we don't want that replaced. I think it'll be very sad for our human race
Yes,
if
I
if
totally agree
our
with you.
workplace is taken over by robots and all these things, the human capital, and that's what a lot of now these associations who are guiding the workplace are talking about, the human element, the human
Yeah.
capital, so important.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you, John. And let's hope to get this direction because, of course, the human touch is irreplaceable. So, and
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be our differentiator when dealing with artificial intelligence. John, moving forward in our conversation, another topic that we touched base last time and that I wanted to pretty much explore with you is the huge topic of incompatible leadership. That means misalignment with managers and leaders. So I recall this as a book. So I remember, right, that you had a common article shared with this title, and I was pretty much captured by this title because it's true that this is one of the phenomena that we see in our workplace, right? When there is a misalignment between admin professional and leaders, but also between leaders and their staff. So, what
Yes.
is this all about? So, what is incompatible leadership, and how can we manage this misalignment? How can we address that?
Gosh, this is so interesting, right? Because we finally worked with someone, Kayla Hutchins is her name. I know her very well. She's in Vegas, and she presented. We enlisted her to write this e-guide, which is very comprehensive about toxic relationships versus misaligned relationships.
Yeah.
And it's very meaty. And so digging into that, really it came to the forefront, this year about that. But I'm sitting here while you were introducing me thinking about how many people was misaligned with that I've hired and they were not aligned with us. And what did I do? And then as a secretary in the workplace, I was thinking, okay, there were executives I wasn't really aligned with. I was expected to work with them, but we really didn't align. And so it's really an interesting topic because a lot of times, so for example, maybe you have an executive and their assistant, right? And it's just not working out. They're working together, they're getting work done, but it's not quite so fluid, and there's a little rigidity, and that's often too why I'm called in as a coach to help with that.
Yeah.
But so an executive might think, well, she's a bad assistant or he's a bad assistant. This doesn't work. But they're not a bad assistant. They just are not for this position and this role. So I did have this happen with one of my clients. Usually I go in and I do the coaching and I can get these executives and assistants aligned because it could be a communication issue and those things. But we did have one instance, and this assistant was excellent, outstanding. It's just she worked in the high-end part of the big corporation, Fortune 100 corporation, where there was a lot of the finance, stock trading, investments, all of this stuff going on. She couldn't keep up with it. It moved so fast, that particular segment. So she was good, she just couldn't keep up. And so I went in for 2 days. I watched her because we tried to see what we could do to help her, and just realizing it wasn't a good fit. She was not aligned with not only the department, but the executives, the top executives, who are leading this. And so they found another position for her within the company. So, I think that's a good foundation to remember. And it isn't that an employee is bad. Like I've had to, yes, I have turned over, different people. I've had my business 34 years. And, as I was growing and starting to hire people, I thought someone looked good on paper. They talked a great game, in the interview. But then when they got in and you start working together, you realize maybe after a few months that, or 6 or 7 months, like, wow, they're not on the same page. And so, I'm a business owner, so I can control some of that, right? But when you think about the workplace, a lot of times you don't get to choose who you want to work with either. Times executives are moved around in a company and they say, that's your assistant. Joe is your assistant. Joe was in this position. You're moving in. That's your assistant. They don't get a choice. Or the assistant doesn't get a choice, right? Joe, the assistant, they tell Joe, here's your new boss. You don't get to choose. So, and that, right? And so this misalignment happens where maybe your philosophies aren't the same, your work values aren't the same. There could be ethical, it could be the communication, you're just misaligned in how your work styles, how you work. Maybe they operate at a really high level and you're not there, So misalignment is you can work with misalignment. I think yes, it may get to a point where you just have to part ways, but you certainly can put in the effort. And so if you think the misalignment is around communication, then you really delve in and you do communication training or coaching, and you get help on what are our gaps? Why aren't we aligning when it comes to communication? And we just talked about styles.
Of course.
So there could be a big gap there in your styles. You're over here, that person's over here. And again, it is an executive. It could be your vice president. It could be a direct report. This happens with everyone, where there can be that misalignment. Or let's say you work in a department and there's a team of 20 and you all have to work together, but you realize that, wow, I'm having a harder time communicating with this individual over here, but I get along really well with this individual. Well, do you think differently about work? Do you think differently about deadlines? Maybe I'm deadline driven, and then this person over here is always missing deadlines. That's a misalignment, right? So you want to look at what it is and then communicate, you've got to talk to each other, and say, I noticed that when we work on a project together, Marco, you want to quickly, come to a conclusion on something, and I prefer to think about that idea for a little while. I would like to massage that, think about it for a few days, assess it before I rush into a decision.
Yeah,
So, how do you think you and I can work together on this project? Where can we meet in the middle? Do you
yeah,
see? So, you have to approach misalignment. A lot of people, what we do, or maybe they don't even realize it's misalignment. They're just like, oh, that person's difficult.
yeah,
Or, why can't, there's an edginess, right? Or you feel a little stress. So you have to first say, whoa, I think we're misaligned here on how we're working. And then you have to have the courage and the confidence to have a conversation,
yeah, about that.
right?
Yes.
So you can come to a resolution. Now, you can have these conversations, because I've had it happen in my own office and a while back with someone who I had hired. And, I had a coach and, work through that process. Logically, this seemed like a really good fit. And it just went on and on and on, where I wasn't seeing the change in that individual. And I realized they just don't have it within them.
Yeah,
It's what I call, it's in your DNA, and maybe they can't change.
yeah,
Then you have to make a decision. Can I continue to work alongside? Or maybe you don't have a choice, right? Or if I'm the executive, it's time to let this person go and let them move on to where they're a better fit.
yeah, of course.
Oh, or maybe, I'm working with a client right now where, and it's non-admins, it's their team, their, accounting and sales and all of that. And there's, one individual, they were saying, I don't think they're just fit for this, what they're doing right now, but they're a good person. I don't want to lose them. They're a good employee. They're dedicated. We're going to shift them and create
Yeah,
another position.
to see
Right.
where this person can shine, maybe better.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
This is a very huge topic. So thanks a lot, Joan, for sharing with us all these options. And of course, misalignment is a huge topic. It can happen, of course, because speaking and coming back to the previous question, we are not robots. We are humans. And between humans, it's natural, right, that there is such a kind of misalignment sometimes because that's life sometimes. We have one bad day, one good day, and sometimes these can affect our attitude, pretty much our work. I think that the step here is to understand if we can go above and beyond and see if this misalignment is temporary, because of course it can be caused by some causes that are temporary causes. So it's just circumstantial, or if this misalignment
Yeah.
is really related to, as you said, the way we work, the values that we believe in, the ethics that we think it's appropriate to get in the workplace. So we needed to, I think, discover the root cause of this misalignment, and then, as you said, have an honest conversation, because these are the steps, in my opinion, that can let us manage such a kind of misalignment. So thanks a lot for sharing such a kind of insights with us.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Now, wrapping up, of course, we have spoken about a lot of things. I cannot mention the 3 Rs. So, what are the 3 Rs all about? I want to share this with our audience because I've been inspired by these insights that you brought in 2023, right? In one of your conferences. The 3 Rs stands for reset, refocus, recenter. So this is an approach, right? That I think you were making after the pandemic because we needed to reset, we needed to refocus, and we needed to recenter a little bit after this big tsunami that we experienced. So, what is this all about? And which is the edge between now going fast, moving fast, because the world now has completely changed, the business is changed, and how can we deal with all of that without compromising ourselves, Joanna? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm just smiling because I remember when I put that presentation together for our conference, and we were just a few, like 2 years, coming out, and not, we weren't out of the pandemic. We were still in it, but
Yeah,
was we were starting to move forward a little bit. And so the whole idea I was thinking about, we have to, now that we're not all at home anymore, and we've got to get back to life, we have to reset our thinking, definitely, I think reset our thinking because of everything was starting to shift now. And we
yeah,
had to think differently. We weren't locked up in our homes, all the time. We didn't have to wear masks, I think, or maybe we had to wear them in certain situations. I don't remember. We had to reset our goals, as we were now able to, we were coming back into the workplace and the work world, even if you were a hybrid person. It's still, we were getting, companies were starting to reset their goals, their vision
yeah,
based on what was happening at the time. So then we have to reset, and even our personal goals, right? I had to
yeah,
reset them. And then the refocus had to do with energy, refocusing where I was putting my energy.
yeah,
Uh, and refocusing on having the mental and physical energy. The
yeah,
pandemic knocked us down hard. And I think many of us, we felt like victims,
yeah,
and so to rise up over that and say, I'm not going to be a victim. I am a warrior, and I have this energy to do what I need to do mentally, physically, emotionally. I got to bring my whole self to the table.
yeah,
And then recentering was around well-being, which I view that as different than energy. Well-being is
yeah,
taking care of myself, like
yeah,
really, again, and that still is physical and mental and so forth, but my well-being, what's good for my well-being, because I also think within my well-being, and I'm just going through this too, I've been going through this with coming upon a new year and our 35th year anniversary and where I am in life. What else feeds my soul?
yeah,
So it's not just I go to the gym and what I eat. I'm talking about, I know part of my well-being is doing work that feeds my soul.
yeah,
And I know straight on, I want to be working. And I'm in an age where I could retire if I want to, and I don't want to. I know for me, it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. We
yeah,
took a whole 2 weeks off at Christmas. We do this every year. We close. And by the end of the second week, I was getting antsy. It's like, I need this. I need this challenge. I need to be with around all these people and interacting. And so it's also knowing, whatever you're doing out there,
yeah,
does it feed your soul? Because if it does, then, and not that every aspect is going to feed your soul. Do I
yeah,
love every facet of my business? No, but overall, I'm doing the work that I love.
yeah,
Because if we don't, we're going to be irritable. We're going to be cranky. We're going to be stressed. We're not going to be patient with people. Now,
yeah,
again, I want to recognize people who maybe they just have to take a job. They don't have a choice. Then I would say to you, find something in your life that feeds your soul.
yeah,
It could be outside of your work day,
yeah,
right? But so that's really important for us. So now when we fast forward, now we are at a pace faster than pre-COVID.
yeah,
You know, I read about it, but I see it, I hear it, I'm interacting and talking with all these people. And then everybody is so busy again. If when I talk with people, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And
yeah,
I'm finding people aren't having the time to get together like they did 2 years ago
yeah,
because now their calendar is full. My own life is getting busier. I try to meet up with my friends on a regular basis, and we could go weeks because either they're real busy, they got stuff on their schedule, or I do. I mean, we're back in life. We are 100% full throttle.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could go more than 100% because 100% is whole. It's
Yeah.
not 110%. 100%, you're given 100%. So to
For
me,
sure.
now we also have to kind of reset our goals. Like
Yeah.
really think about my goals and making sure I am spending my time on the things that are important to me. What, because you can only do so much too. We only have so many hours in a day. And so resetting that, resetting our thinking to, like, so here's a good one. There are people, and many of us, and I'll give you a personal example in a
Yeah.
moment. Because again, I was just having this conversation with my team where they're so used to working from home 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or fully. They cannot get themselves to get back into the workplace. And we have big corporations, I think it's Google and some other big ones here.
Yeah.
They're calling everybody back. You are coming back this
Yeah.
year, now, as of January 3rd, 5 days a week. Well, there's all this resistance. Well, you know what I say to those people? You need to reset your thinking. I realize you got comfortable, but we cannot stay there anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, that is not what we are being asked to do. And so the example I want to personally share with you really quick
Yeah.
is, one of my goals and desires is to really bring back some of my Joan Burge as a professional speaker. I really am, Joan Burge, the CEO and founder of Office Dynamics International. I am a professional speaker, but I focus on the administrative world,
Yeah.
right? But many of the topics I speak on, because they're workplace topics and they're interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, I can speak to anyone on. And I
Yeah.
have. I've been brought into companies to meet with marketing teams, and I've worked with salon, beauticians. How do they communicate with their clients?
Yeah.
I'm not limited to admins, but that's where I
Yeah.
have chosen my focus.
Yeah.
But also, I miss being out there speaking because pre-COVID, I was going on site into a company doing the in-person trainings and workshops, and I was doing
Yeah.
that pretty regularly. And that has slowed down significantly. It's slowly coming back. It's so virtual, right?
Yeah.
But I miss it. I really miss it. I love being in person with people. I love being on stage. And right now, the only time I've been on stage is at our annual conference that we host. So I made the decision. I want to recreate my Joan Burge as a professional speaker. I can speak to women. I can speak to business owners. I can speak about resiliency and, teamwork and all of these things because I want to get back out there. I
Yeah.
want to be out there with people. Well, personally, I'm a little scared because you see, I've sat behind this camera now for
Yeah.
4 years, right? And little of going out.
Yeah.
So I want this, but I'm a little scared too because I have to stretch those muscles again. And
Yeah.
to be on the road, I need physical energy. So I'm working out now. I'm committed to my gym routine. So, it isn't just what I'm telling everybody else. I know that we've been, when you've done, we had that 3, 4 years. That's a lot. I mean, it takes a long time. It takes a while to break that behavior.
Yeah.
And now I think people were going through there's this discomfort of getting back out there into the world. But we have to do it. We just really have to do it. I was just reading this morning in an industry. Again, I read every morning. I do a quick span of the industry journals and then also major news outlets.
Yeah.
USA Today and Times and all of that. And so it was actually just talking about how people are still isolating themselves.
Yeah.
They're still order fast food or go pick up food at a restaurant and go home.
Yeah.
So we're losing socialization.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As human beings, we are designed to interact
Socialize. Yeah.
human.
Yeah, yeah,
So now what does this create? So, I think we have to really reset ourselves in that thinking. And then we've got to refocus our energy. We've got to build our energy again. We have to build that stamina to keep up. And like for me, like I said, if I want to get out there again and I want to start traveling, I've got to build that energy, the physical energy, the mental energy, So what are you equipping yourself with? Because now the world's changed again, and
yeah,
it's going to continue to change, right?
yeah,
And then I'd say the recentering, it's still at a time where don't get so caught up in busyness and filling our schedules again that we're not taking quiet time for ourselves. We're
yeah,
not making that time to go to lunch with a friend. We're not making time, to just even read, to quietly sit at home and read or explore nature. If you were going out a lot in nature and taking hikes and walking, and now, you know, you get so caught up, you don't do that anymore.
yeah.
So I feel like now this is the time again, but we're in a different world.
Yeah, completely. So let's say that reset, refocus, and recenter is a process that we should apply continuously in our life to make sure that we are aligned with our inner part, with ourselves. Because again, it's about misalignment. If we wanted to touch base again with our previous topic, we need to make sure that we are aligned with ourselves and with the context in which we are, in order to make sure that we are 100% the people that we want to be. And I feel that thanks a lot for sharing your example, because your example can be a paradigm for our audience in order to understand how they can apply this approach, this method to them, in order to understand if they have set up the right goals, if they have set up the right focus, and if they are centered to what matters for them and for the context in which they are. So thanks a lot for sharing your example. It's like, yeah, a paradigm, I would say.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
John, we have finished. I have finished these questions. Thanks a lot for this time. I have enjoyed interacting with you, having a conversation with you, because we really touched things and topics that will be treasured by our audience. I'm sure about that. So I cannot wait to see you again, virtually or in person, who knows. And
Marco.
keep up with everything that we have seen around, and let's
Okay,
stay tuned. Thanks a lot,
all
John.
right. Yes, you're
Take
welcome.
care.